a few of these, a four-member board, which will mean you'd need a unanimous decision to move ahead. I'll let you know as we come up whether you'll be able to
Yes.
hear five of us or four of us. I'm going to read a letter for 27 Sunset Avenue. Jennifer Patel is going to request a continuance till October 4th, 2018. So that will not be heard this evening. Our next meeting is 3 Sunset Ave, William Killen. Someone is here tonight, they can approach the podium. Please give us your name and address and a small explanation of what you intend to do. Let me just read the notice first, sir. The Board of Appeals for the Town of Chelmsford will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 6th, 2018, at 7 p.m. in room 204 of the town offices, 50 Billrica Road, to hear requests for special permits, variance, and other appeals. 3 Sunset Ave, William Killen is seeking a variance under 195(8)(E)(2) to construct an 18 by 18 square foot three-season porch with a full foundation which exceed the 10% allowable and that's lot area and any other relief that may be deemed necessary or floor area for the lot. It's an RB district. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'll use my courtroom voice. And I get your name and address, sir.
My name is William Killian, 3 Sunset. I'm sorry about my voice.
And Jean Killian, 3 Sunset Ave.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You're looking to add an 18 by 18.
Yeah, right now we have a deck on the back of the house that's uncovered. It's 14 and a half by 14 and a half, and we wanted to take that down and in its place put an 18 by 18 three-season porch. But we also wanted to put a foundation underneath it because we have very little storage. There's no attic in the house, and there's not much unfinished space to store anything. So my garage is my storage, and so we're going to use that strictly for storage.
Okay, so you have a 14 by 14 deck now.
Yes.
I gotta ask the building inspector, is the deck not considered area for this application?
The deck is considered area.
So are they still exceeding the 10% if they have,
So with adding to the structure as it is now, you would be exceeding
the 10%?
10%.
Because we're not counting the 14 by 14 area of a deck?
Correct.
Okay, okay. Does the board have any questions of this applicant?
I just have to say, if you're gonna put a deck on a season porch, that's the only place on that lot you could possibly put it, so that's perfect.
Yeah. Any other questions? I will read the letters. I have a letter for 3 Sunset Ave from Fire Prevention, and they have no comments. I have a letter from Community Development. There are no concerns. I have a letter from Engineering, and again, no comments. Those are the only letters this evening. I'll open this up to the audience. If there's anyone who'd like to speak on behalf or in opposition to this application, now is the time. Seeing none,
I'd like to make a motion, Brian, to close the public hearing. Oh,
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye,
You can take this up right now.
yeah, I would. I'd like to make a motion to approve this, variance under 195-E subsection E in subsection 2. And the letters have no concern, so we don't even need the letters to be mentioned. Anyways, I'd like to approve it.
A motion to approve. I need a second.
I just have a quick question before.
Oh, sure.
I don't think it matters, but the ad says 3 season and the plan says 4 season. I don't know if that matters in the approval or anything like that.
I don't think so in any sense.
No, I don't think that
It's,
would.
Okay. That was just gonna.
invalidate
then
the
I'll second.
advertisements.
I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thunder.
I'll defer all good luck to Steve from.
Just the ray of sunshine.
Man, they left.
Oops.
Got what they needed.
Get my paperwork in order here. Our next applicant is 132 Dalton Road, John and Sarah Kilvin. They are seeking a special permit under 195-6-1, a limited accessory apartment, and 195-8E2, which will increase the square footage over the 10% allowable, and any other relief that is deemed necessary. Good evening. If I could have your name and address for the record.
Yes, John Kivlin, 132 Dalton Road.
Sarah Kivlin, 132 Dalton Road.
Thank you. I get the, details up on the screen there.
Details are conveniently upside down.
That's why we cut that one.
Any questions from the board with this application?
Yeah, I have a question, Brian. I thought we changed the law and the accessory apartments have to be attached to the house. Is a deck is that legal to be attached to a house?
Yes.
Is the deck okay?
So it appears that in the diagrams that I'm seeing here, that it's showing a covered breezeway.
Yes, sir.
Is that, so that would fall under the building code as minimal attachment?
Okay.
Is there a reason, John, for the separation of 5 feet between the spaces? Is it windows that you just want to let some light in that side?
That middle section, it's going to be more of like a entryway, mudroom, hallway.
So you'll pass on that 5-foot section. It'll be a walkway of sorts to get to the proposed deck.
And the deck in the back, yeah, there'll be a
Yeah,
door
I see.
in the front,
Okay.
a door in the
I
back.
just was,
Yeah.
5 feet is a little tighter than ideal, but I just wanted to understand it.
What is the required side yard clearance in?
It would be 25. But that is a corner lot. But technically, that would be 40 feet, right? So that's actually a roadway rather than a home, Steve, on the left, or this is upside down. so
On
I'm-
Land Avenue.
No, my plan's upside down. I don't know if everybody else is.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you can't spin it? I'm sorry. My fault.
So Myland Ave is the side section there that it would be 10.5 feet away from,
Sorry.
which is a small residential street.
Have you ever thought of putting the whole thing right in the backyard rather than the side yard or front yard?
The front yard?
Well,
Is that what you're
no, I
saying?
mean by the shed, headed towards the shed.
Oh, in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 3 young children also. We were trying to maintain some
backyard.
yard for them to also use.
Okay.
So the front yard is currently in violation at 31.4?
Yeah.
They need 40?
Correct. It's a non-conforming lot at this point. It would have side yard on, and again, this is upside down. On the Myland Ave side, it would have 28.4 feet now. On the other side, it's 16.6.
So it's a pre-existing structure on a pre-existing non-conforming structure on a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
Right.
Doesn't meet
With
anything.
side and front yard restrictions.
Side and 2 front yards.
And yes, the two I always try to ignore because I think it's a little unfair burden. Because it's a corner lot to gain an extra 15 feet of space is, in my opinion, not fair. But that's the way it is. I think I will read the letters and then open this up to the audience. I have a letter for 132 Dalton Road from engineering. The addition will be directly over the sewer service. The applicant must contact the sewer division to coordinate moving the sewer service. I have a letter from Center Water with no comments. I have a letter from Fire Prevention, which is the long letter. I'm sure Mr. Kivlin is aware of it. Dear members of the board, regarding 132 Dalton Road, the department is concerned that if there's more than one dwelling on the property, then that occupancy should be identifiable from the street. This office will require 2 mailboxes identifying the property as 132 Dalton Road and 132A Dalton Road. The applicant shall submit an application for an address to the Chelmsford 911 Committee and its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Druez. This department is not interested in an official change of address being recorded on the deed. It is only our intent to distinguish this home to emergency responders. The limited accessory apartment and the existing house shall be hardwired with smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors according to the current Massachusetts State Building Code. The applicant is advised to contact the Fire Prevention Office prior to submitting plans. This office would approve this plan with these conditions, and I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully, Daniel Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. I have a letter from Community Development with no concerns. I have a letter from Mr. Kivlin. Dear members of the board, we are writing this letter to seek approval for a proposed addition to our home at 132 Dalton Road. Over the past 5 years, we have watched Sarah's mother's health continue to decline. After weighing all our options, we've decided the best solution would be to add an addition to our home that will allow us to be close enough to provide assistance as needed and to monitor her health. It is our goal to add a modest addition that would fit with the character of the neighborhood. We look forward to hearing from the board and hopefully having your approval. Sincerely, John Kivlin and Sarah Kivlin. I have another letter from Mr. Kivlin and Sarah. Dear members of the board, attached you will find a list of our neighbors that support our planned addition at 132 Dalton Road. We have taken the time to discuss our plans and address any concerns that our neighbors may have. It is our hope that this show of support from our neighbors will help us gain the approval and support of the board. Thank you, John Kivlin and Sarah Kivlin. The list is, I'm going to have a little trouble with some of these names.
Versus Don Caputo.
Want to do just the numbers of
Through
the,
the addresses.
I will do the addresses,
There
that's
you
a
go.
very good idea.
make it easy.
Signers of this supporting the addition at 132 Dalton Road is 6 Myland Ave, 8 Myland Ave, 8 Myland Ave, 134 Dalton Road, 134 Dalton Road, 135 Dalton Road, 135 Dalton Road, 9 Myland Ave, 9 Myland Ave, 130 Dalton Road, and 130 Dalton Road. That is the extent of my letters for this application. I'm going to open this up to the audience. If there's anyone out there who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, now is the time. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I have some questions.
Very good.
Questions on the new entrance in the front. That is new, right? That's nothing that was there before.
Which,
Yeah,
Proposed
which
buil-
one?
On the right side by where you're putting the LAA.
This?
So we have an entrance on that side of the house already.
You do?
It would just be shifting it so that it would be more forward facing toward the road. Right now, it's a side door that,
So was the side entrance before?
Yes, sir.
Because one of the requirements here is that any new entrances be either on the side or the rear of the building for egress and so forth on
yes,
an
so
LAA.
this will actually, as stated before, it's a 5-foot mudroom. There will be a rear exit as well that would lead to a deck that would have an exit to the backyard, if that's the door you mean.
Right, but
Mark, I
that's-
think I would.
And we also have,
That's not what it says.
on the addition out the back,
think-
the bump out the back, there's also a back door on that as well that's not shown on the structure. There's actually, as of right now, we have 3 entryways to the home. Looking at the house, the front, I'm almost talking fire department, saying Alpha Bravo Charlie, but the front, the very back of the home, and then on the, if you're looking at a home, where would be the right side of the home, there's 3 doors now. We would just be taking that side door, and it would be almost like a through and through.
No, I get that. You know, what I'm concerned or what I'm questioning more is whether or not, again, that's a new front entrance that's being added for the LAA.
Is there an entrance on the 13-foot dimension of the home,
Here.
the new addition?
No, there is no door there.
There is no door there.
Not
It's-
there.
So
It's-
then
it's
that
right here.
entrance is what was there before. It's just facing forward now
Yes,
instead of
yes, sir.
sideways.
Yes.
Okay.
Leave the pictures on the other part of
Yeah,
it, show that.
pictures
Yeah,
on
if
the
you
other
scroll
plan
down,
shows
there's
them.
pictures.
I didn't do that, okay.
You spin this so you can see it properly.
No, I can't see anything.
Oh, so that entire area is covered.
Wrong way.
Yeah, that's what I'm spinning my
I didn't understand that.
iPad
either.
around
That-
to try to figure out what I'm
Yeah, a
looking
little
at.
confusing with
On the new section, the intent would be, and according to the plans, there wouldn't be an entryway on that part right there, because that would be their intended bedroom. So we wouldn't have
Mark,
a
if you look
doorway
up
into the
there.
bedroom there.
Yeah, I'm trying to look
This is the,
everywhere.
Right, right. I understand what you're saying, Mark. I think they are okay with that.
Right, because what I'm saying is that previously, if that was just a side facing, then what we've got now is a front facing.
Right.
And what this says about LAA is that you shouldn't be putting anything front. It should be side or
Side or
rear.
rear.
There would
right.
also be a rear.
No,
Yep.
but that's not what it's asking.
Oh, okay.
Is the rear where the shed is going to be? There's a proposed shed at the back?
The rear, yeah, the rear would be.
Right across from
The,
that.
the actual,
There. It's not drawn on there.
Oh, so it's in the
Oh,
breezeway
this
as
is
well?
the
Yeah.
rear, right there.
Yeah, I
That
get
is
the rear.
door.
that's the shed/garage looking thing.
So that's the side entry now.
So that's out onto the deck. The shed would be further,
right, it's
Yeah.
really a deck with 2 doors on it. The
It
deck
actu-
won't be heated, they're coming in, but the second door would be, no, neither deck would be heated. That's, yeah. So she can exit the addition from the living room and right outside the bathroom into the front area, under the deck.
yeah.
But there was a separate entrance in the back for,
Yeah, off the deck.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Can we ask more questions while you ponder?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just trying to understand the whole.
So why not have it against the back of the house? Like where you have the deck, why didn't you put the LAA back there to help with the side, the clearance on the right side of the house?
One of the concerns, well, the sewer part of it was part of the concern, and then trying to figure out the layout of our current house, the way the back is, trying to figure out how we could make an entranceway there because of the way the kitchen is laid out, our current kitchen, and the way the countertops and everything, where it would be a complete kitchen remodel. As we were trying to keep our existing home as intact as possible, not having to make many changes, just the addition would be the change on the side. We were trying to, we didn't have to do a complete remodel of the interior of the existing home, because we just quite frankly can't afford that.
Any other questions, Mark?
I'm good.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second? Steve, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we could take this up now.
My only concern is the side yard going from
If you look at like
28 to 10.
Have you, I don't disagree. It's a very tight neighborhood regardless. As you can see on the other side, there's just 16 now. A lot of support from the neighbors and no opposition, so I personally don't see that being a huge problem. It works out to 650 feet of in-law, and they're allowed technically 750. That's a little smaller than it could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the side. It's like down
Are you losing your driveway by doing this?
Losing a portion of it. We have a rear driveway that's not listed there, but we are losing a portion of our front driveway.
there. Like the stone patio.
We'll be losing the patio completely.
We're not supposed to be asking questions.
I was talking to you.
Sorry.
It was too slow on the answers.
Sorry.
Any thoughts about a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this special permit for 132 Dalton Road for the limited access apartment with consideration for the letters read into record.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
We have 3. All opposed? We have 2. The motion would carry with 5, right?
No.
Actually, this
It's a
isn't a variance, though.
This is,
It's
doesn't
a
have to be-
special permit.
So there's two,
The variance.
two pieces of relief that are being sought here, correct? One is the special permit for the limited
Yep.
accessory apartment. And then the second one be for the reduction of the lot line, so for the setback requirement.
Increase
So-
in square footage.
But this is a non-conforming lot, so wouldn't that be a special permit?
It would be a special permit, but it's a different vote. It's a separate vote from.
2
the-
separate votes.
Right.
Okay.
And the
198E2.
Okay, I did
195.8E2.
So are we,
And then accessory
Split the
195.6-.1, right? That's one for the special, and then the other one's for the square footage.
Yeah, I need to look at the,
And there's any other relief deemed necessary, which would also be the side yard. That's 3 votes.
correct, I mean, we don't need a hardship with this. It's,
Excuse me, Mr.
hardship is
Chairman.
not required.
yes, Sean.
If I might add, the character of that neighborhood during construction went with 12-foot side yard setbacks when that neighborhood was first constructed.
When that neighborhood was constructed, there were
Correct.
12-foot sides, that's right. And that's not uncommon over there now. We would be at 11.3 on the Myland Avenue side at the rear of the property, and 10.5 at the front of the property. It's not that far away from the what was built there originally.
Right.
It's a very compacted neighborhood. So, once you just, with the original vote we had, which I know we need to determine how we voted, would that pass 3-2, or is that,
I'm looking, so
I'm sorry.
a Section 6 finding only requires a simple majority unless the board, the town has adopted a special permit requirement for the finding, in which case it requires the supermajority. So I'm going through the bylaw right now to see if it gives us any guidance on that issue. It's going slow. But I think you could separately take up the limited accessory apartment special permit. That is a special permit, and that does require a 4-1 vote.
The accessory apartment.
The accessory apartment requires a special permit.
Well, we have to,
So what would that vote
Separate
be,
them.
that they could have
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Or as
LAA.
depicted. Yeah.
or is it that we're approving this LAA? What would that,
Yeah, I'm not understanding that either.
Well,
Because the LAA is under 750, so just on its own, I mean, as long as they're not applying for 3 people to live there, I think it's probably.
Right, or over 750.
Yeah, and it's not over 750,
Correct.
so it'd be pretty much a slam dunk, I think. On that, no.
I mean, when these houses were built, the 12-foot side setback was the standard. I don't know if that affects anyone's vote in a consideration. I think the concerns are the proximity to
Yeah.
Myland. But it's not very different than the entire neighborhood when it was constructed.
So, looking at the bylaw, it requires a special permit, not simply a finding. So it does require the supermajority vote.
And if I can make a point of order, there's no kitchen in this. It could literally go in as an addition. The kitchen is what qualifies it as a limited accessory apartment.
that's what it's seeking relief for.
It says kitchen right here.
Where?
Am I missing something?
Oh,
It says kitchen, 15 by,
you're, sorry.
yeah.
It was a misspelling, it was supposed to say living room. No.
Was it?
So I was recalling a
check.
different
If that
plan.
makes a difference, we'd be willing to eliminate the kitchen and
I
do a
mean,
shared
if- yeah,
kitchen with
if
them. I
that-
mean, we just need to get them close, that's all.
is the kitchen the holdup? Is that the?
No, I just brought that up, I'm
Oh.
sorry.
The board members' concerns are the
Side setback.
distance from Myland Avenue. I don't disagree that it's tighter than ideal, but if you were building this house the year it was built, you'd be a foot short of the goal. You know, you wouldn't be, the new requirements, not to say they're new, they've been in for quite a while, is a 1-acre lot, 150 feet of frontage with a 40-foot setback. Your side setbacks are 25 feet and your rear setback is 40 feet. It would be impossible on this lot to accommodate that, and that's where the Board of Appeals comes as helpful to say, is this meeting the standard? You know, personally, I think it does. It's closer than ideal, but it is, it's not going in a neighborhood where this is unheard of. Like that, if you were building it today.
I've lived in the house 43 years, this is the house I was born and raised in. Like, I completely understand. It's not ideal to me either, but unfortunately, this is the best.
Right, it's a situation I feel you're somewhat forced into.
That's why it was very
Voted,
important
so
for us to
we-
go to the
we have,
neighbors and talk to them as well.
I'm just looking to give them some direction as to what would be
Would
appropriate.
the consideration of the character cause a different vote?
We can't revote.
Well, we voted on the limited accessory.
Yes.
If the kitchen were to be removed, we'd still have the same hurdle. And I'm personally of the opinion, I understand the apartments are very necessary to care for your family. Mr. Kivlin's lived there 43 years. It's, it's hard for me to think this isn't a reasonable idea. I'm just looking for a little direction.
Well, so the standard under the bylaw is the Board of Appeals may by special permit allow such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. The board needs to make a determination that what's being proposed is substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board has already taken a vote. It does have the ability to accept a motion for reconsideration if any board member feels like they want to take a different position, or it can stick with the vote it's already taken.
I guess that board member would have to make a motion to that effect. And I'm not seeing that. I would suggest an alteration of the design and try to accommodate the setback a little further away. I'm disappointed to tell you that. I don't know what better option you have, and I do feel personally that the LLAs are very important to this entire town. I think there's a lot of people that are in the position where they're trying to care for their elderly family members, and it's a challenge.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Good luck this time, Leslie.
That would just be wrong.
Yes.
That would be wrong.
That was harsh.
Okay. Our next application is 17 Marina Road, Janice Power. She's seeking a special permit under 195(8)(C1) to alter a pre-existing non-conforming structure on a pre-existing non-conforming lot and any other relief that may be deemed necessary. Good evening.
Hi,
I could get your name and address for the record.
Janice Power, 17 Marina Road.
Thank you. Your name, sir?
And Bob Power, Old Village Road in Foxborough.
Thank you.
He's my brother.
Yeah.
Get you pulled up on the screen here. You're adding a 7x12 addition to the left side of the home as you face it from Marina Road. Your house on the right side is an 18-foot, oh, this is proposed as well, I'm sorry, there's a 4.5, or a 5-foot by 19.4
Yep.
addition to the right side of the home.
That's right, one's a bathroom, the 7x12, for my elderly father, for his master bedroom. And then on the other side, it's a staircase to go to, for my space above the
Up
garage.
to the second floor, okay.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
And I don't know if it's in there, but my parents live with me. They have 2 separate bedrooms.
Yes. Now, do they, this is not an in-law apartment at this point, though? They just live with you?
Yeah, I was going to try for the in-law, but I can't afford it.
Oh, I
I
understand.
can
Yeah.
afford this.
That's a good thing that you're helping them.
I assume the stairwell is inside?
Yes, it's right off the
Would be
existing
inside
office.
the house, though, not outside, yeah.
Yeah.
But it says it's a 1-story.
Currently a ranch house, yes.
Okay.
she wants to add a bedroom over the garage, and the staircase is to access the bedroom over the garage.
I see.
Yeah.
It'll become second.
I was trying not to lose the office because I work from home. Kind of need it.
Sure.
Is the bedroom mentioned here?
No, I know it.
That's not part of this application.
Okay.
But as a future, you'll be pulling a permit, but you do not need relief to build a bedroom.
That's right.
It's not going anywhere.
So it's a staircase to nowhere.
Well, they'll get through this process, I imagine, and move to the next.
That doesn't need our approval, apparently.
I don't know if the board recalls, but you approved an LAA here prior that she was unable to
Oh, okay.
finish. So this is a smaller version of something that she's been looking for a while.
My parents get the house, I move upstairs.
Yeah, rather than the other way around. They win.
Okay, if there are no questions this time from the board, I'm going to read you the letters. 17 Marina Road, there are no comments from the Center Water District. 17 Marina Road, there is an attached letter from Fire Prevention. Dear members of the board, this office has reviewed the proposal for an addition at 17 Marina Road, finds the following. The entire home and existing new construction shall be equipped with life safety systems as required by 780 CMR 51, standard for new construction. The home shall have hardwired, interconnected smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors in all required locations. 3 copies of the plans that clearly show all the required safety devices shall be submitted to this office as part of the building permit plan review process. This office would approve of this addition with these conditions. I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Daniel Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. Why does Evan do that every time? The Community Development Department has no concerns. Engineering. The addition may run over the sewer service. The applicant must contact the sewer division prior to getting a building permit. That is the extent of my letters. Any further questions from the board at this time?
Nope.
None. I'm going to open this up to public comment. Any questions for or against this application? Now is the time. Seeing none, I accept the motion to,
close the public hearing, Brian?
A second.
seconded by Mark. And we'll take this up right now, I imagine.
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to approve 17 Marina Road for a special permit under 195-8 subsection C, subsection 1, to alter the pre-existing non-conforming structure, with all the letters taken into consideration.
I'll second.
Second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Unanimous? Good luck with it.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
I got double luck on that one.
Yeah, you don't get to do anymore. You don't mean to do that thing.
No. Yeah, but Concom, she was going out back. Of course, she already had that approval. Yeah. Her LAA would come straight out back. So that one still stands.
Next application is 176 Mill Road. Susan Hagel is seeking a special permit under 195-6-1, limited accessory apartment to construct a 22 by 30 addition and any other relief that may be deemed necessary. We have a 660 square foot accessory building, accessory apartment. Good evening.
Hi,
If we could
I'm
get your name and address for the record.
I am Susan Hagel, 176 Mill Road in Chelmsford.
Thank you. You're going to put on a limited accessory apartment?
I hope so.
Mr. Flaherty, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you. I'm sorry.
Glad to
I sat
speak.
down.
Please check
Abel
in.
was doing such a good job, I didn't want to interfere.
I was able to say my own name.
But,
Mr. Flaherty has been very helpful to me in this process.
but we've been to conservation, so that's why we have and we were approved, so that's why we have such a complicated looking drawing up there.
That is a
But all sorts of stuff. But on this simplified color version here, we're trying to show that the proposed accessory apartment is going to be about 65 feet from the lot line on the side, and here, and about 57 feet from the street. So there's no
No
need for
dimensional relief required.
no relief required for yards. And the only thing we're looking for is a accessory apartment.
But
Excellent.
there's other plans, right? You have another document that came.
Oh, sure.
Is it too
Because-
big? What is?
No.
So
It looks pretty big.
why is it not just a by right accessory?
Because
Or-
it's
You
a
still need a
special
special
permit.
permit just to
It's
have
still
one.
special
Accessory
permit.
apartment.
It's new
Yeah.
construction, so.
It's not quite by right, but it's close.
Still needs to come here.
Are these the one you wanted?
Well, Don Anderson of Lowell Blueprint did some plans for me, and he did take pictures of what the house looks like. And there's, yeah. So although it is, the footprint is 660, I was hoping to not really have a second floor, but have a taller building with a little storage upstairs.
If it's unfinished space, you'd be permitted to have an attic there
Yeah,
of any size. It wouldn't be considered in the,
but there would be stairs to get up to it, because I'm not, as I get older, it's gonna be even more difficult to do a pull-down or something like that. And I thought it would look funny to just have a very short building added on to something that size, so Dawn did these plans, so the square footage, if you counted that, would be a little over 800, I believe.
I would defer to Sean on this.
You know, we would not include unfinished space in the square footage.
Okay, and what does unfinished mean? Can I have walls?
Excuse me, you can have walls, you cannot have finished material, finished moldings, finished floors, so forth. You can absolutely, because of the energy stretch code, fur those walls out, insulate them, and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. And if down the road I did want to put a wall up, wallboard kind of thing, how would that work if I could do that?
In order to meet the stretch code, you would need to finish that off with some type of covering.
You could put the
wallboard.
wall board up
Right.
on it.
Yeah,
Right now, I'd say.
So you need to do it now.
see,
Yeah, now, I think
I'm-
it'd be required to.
yeah, I'm going to be the person living in it, because I know you have my letters, but my son and his family are going to move in the rest, and as I get older, and because I think I said in the letter, I took care of all of my parents, so I know what's down the road if you're lucky enough to live long. If
I think as storage, we'd have no
Yeah.
concerns.
No concern.
The
Okay,
space for storage. If you look to finish it off for other space, I think you'd have to approach the board again with a change or a.
Square
what
footage.
would you want to-
is that the only picture that you have?
It would be a square footage ad, right?
Yeah,
Right,
because-
it has to ask for
Yeah.
additional relief for the
Yeah.
square footage.
Right.
yeah,
But
but
if it's storage,
Yeah.
you'd be just
But
fine.
I mean, should I do that now if you look at the pictures? Because that's the first floor, and then that's
Having trouble
what
seeing
he
it.
did.
Can you blow that up a little bit,
Yeah.
Colleen, because we don't have those, or I
Oh,
don't.
that's what he did for the second floor. So he has this little
This,
lofty area.
just, just proud of myself for figuring it out.
So if you don't include the stairway square footage, and I
Right, the
believe,
stairway would not be included, and actually, the 660 does include that square footage, because I just took your foundation dimensions.
okay,
So if we remove the stairway, it'd be even less.
yeah, but I don't want to remove it because I want to be able to.
No, from the
No, no,
calculator.
Yeah, oh.
He's saying
For
for
a
the
square foot
numbers,
count.
just for
All I did is
numbers.
take the dimensional area of the space. So technically, you'd have even less than that for your square footage. You don't have to count the stairway.
Right, I did know that, yeah.
Right, so that, the 660 was simply just the square footage of the room itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of what I was hoping is to be able, while I can still get up the stairs, because I want something that's going to be as ADA compliant on the first floor as it can be for me to be able to get around when I can't get around.
Yep.
But while I can, I sort of thought I might put a computer desk up there or something in the meantime. Oh,
Storage.
it is storage.
You can store your computer there.
It is
You're talking
storage.
yourself right out.
Because I'm,
Ron, why couldn't we approve it for 800 square feet?
We can, but that's not what's in
That's
front
not
of
what's
us.
applied.
Oh, okay.
but I thought I was applying for that because of that sentence that says any other
I think
relief.
if you choose to do that, if you'd like to say, I want that space to be usable, I think my suggestion would be that you withdraw, apply for the more, because we can't approve more space without it being advertised, or is that?
What?
I don't think you would need to re-advertise this.
Because
The
it's right.
structure is going to be
The structure's the
exactly
same,
the same. I
right.
think what you would need to do is have a resubmitted plan that does not show it as storage, that shows it as actual living space.
Well, it is going to be storage. I'm just talking about that loft area.
No, she's
In
not
a way-
talking about the,
Computer
she's
there.
talking about the.
All right, I'll just shut up. It is storage. It is. It's
You're
definitely
just talking about
storage.
the loft area.
Yes, right. the
Yeah,
loft
that
area.
little front
That's-
area.
that's
I
what
thought,
she
oh, I could put a desk there.
Mr. Flaherty, could you tell us how much square foot would be there with the, do you know this by any chance? The square footage of the addition including the loft area? Or should I do my own math?
No, I don't.
You're like a human calculator,
I'm
so
sure
I...
Dawn has got it somewhere on a chart.
He does. I asked him to put it on there.
Here.
It's 7.5 feet by, if you don't include the stairway,
42?
by 18.
Oh, by 18.
Because it's only 20, I only get 22 feet wide because you have to take 4 feet out from the stairway.
So that's
So 7.5
56?
times- I can't add in my head.
7, 8, 56 square feet for that loft?
Right, it'd be
If you take the
56,
stairs out of the 660, you might be in.
and we could remove the stairway, which with a turn is probably 150 feet. We had 660 plus 56, 656, of course, 7 plus 60.
Still
That takes us 716 minus 150 feet for the stairway. We have 566.
Stairway's 150 feet?
It's 3 feet wide by 12 feet. No, it's not 150 feet. So a regular stair is 3 by 12.
The
Would be
stairs are,
36
I think,
square
the
feet.
the
And
stairs
that
had
has
to be 4 feet.
another 16 feet for the turn.
There's a chart up here.
Yeah.
The stairs are
Limited to
4.
750.
4 feet wide.
Yeah, 4
stairs.
feet wide.
Yeah, that's what we're
So
saying.
it's 4 feet
So
wide.
if that loft space with everything else is under, up to or under 750, then we could amend this and go that way, but, I mean, I can't read that either.
I think it says 588.
I'll blow it up again.
Is the
588.
loft pulled out of there? The addition is 22 by 30.
660, and then less the stairs brings it down to 588.
So then if you add in, what was it, 56 for the
56.
loft space? So then you're still in.
Under.
You're still under.
So we don't need to make any adjustments on it. It's
Right.
as proposed.
Okay.
It's still under the 750.
We should just
Note it.
probably mention that that loft is considered living space. So then,
Right.
While I can walk up the stairs, it's living space. When I can't anymore,
Hopefully
then
that's
it
for a
won't be.
very, very long time.
Well, we'll
well,
see.
that's your decision.
Okay, I am going to, I'm going to read the letters. I have a letter from Center Water with no comments. I have a letter from Community Development with no concerns.
It's his little thing.
It is his thing. I have a letter from Engineering with a asterisk. Number 1, the drainage channel along the eastern property line must be protected with erosion sediment control. I'm going to assume, Ms. Flair, that Conservation has looked into that as well?
Got that all covered, yeah, we have
Thank you.
silt barrier going up there.
And I'll read this into the record because it's here, but I do understand that Conservation is really the one doing the oversight. The inlet to the culvert must be kept free of debris. The Cultec infiltrator roof drain must be inspected by the DPW. And number 4, call the engineering division for all inspections as listed above. I didn't get a letter from the fire department on this one? So I'm sure fire is gonna have their same restrictions, which is the smoke
Yes.
detector, the,
They are hardwired already in the main
Yeah.
house.
maybe that's why there's no letter, but the addition would require that as
Yes.
well.
Right.
So- And that'll be part of the building permit process anyway, so we don't
Yes.
really need to enter it in, but it's good to just make you aware of it. Are there any other questions from the board this evening, at this time? Are there any other questions from the audience regarding this application, either in favor or in opposition? Seeing none,
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
motion by
Second.
Mark, second by Steve, all in favor? Aye. Are there any other concerns regarding 176 Mill Road?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the application, the special permit for 176 Mill Road for a limited accessory apartment under 195 6.1, with a note that the loft area, as shown, will be considered
Part of the
living
living
space.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you
Enough of
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Early. Think about that. Mark would be the only one that's in question. Oh,
For this
it's
one?
continued for adult
Excuse me,
hearing.
Mr. Chairman, the next one is Harvey, is it telling me to step down? But in Delgarian Terrace, would that be heard tonight?
You've never heard of them before. Yeah, that's
Colleen,
right.
was Delgarian Terrace continued
Yes.
to,
I don't
do we have a
believe-
letter?
No, they're here tonight.
Yeah,
Delgarian is here tonight.
it's a continued
You need to
hearing.
stick around, Joe.
So we are continuing and they
Okay,
are
I'll stick
available.
around. Yep, no
Okay,
problem.
but you're gonna recuse yourself for
Recuse, and I'll be right back.
For which one?
91 Billrica Road.
Did we take testimony with the last time?
Yes.
We did. Okay, so,
I'll just be leaving then.
yeah.
So we have a continued public hearing,
We
91
only have
Billrica
3.
Road, William Harvey trustee for an administrative appeal. The decision of the building commissioner of the town of Chelmsford rescinding a previously issued building permit
No, he'll be back.
for the construction of a single-family residential structure.
I didn't understand.
Such rescission was based on the building commissioner's determination that the property located at 91 Billrica Road lacked sufficient lot area pursuant to the definition of lot area contained in Article XX of the Chelmsford zoning bylaw.
Brian, that one's being continued.
That one, there was a letter from the last, actually, it's probably in there. The variance is being heard tonight, but the.
We are continuing the administrative appeal.
Right,
Till
so you just read
October
off the
4th.
administrative appeal.
I certainly did. So I guess I'm gonna ask for a motion to continue that.
Yes.
Motion to continue.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
91 Billrica Road's appeal is
Yes.
continued, but we will be hearing
Mr. Chairman,
the
just
variance
Continued to
application.
Continue to
October
October 4th.
3rd, 4th.
Continue to October 4th, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yes.
want to make sure we do it to a date certain.
Yeah, we want to dot our Ts and cross our Is, right? So we have a application for a variance, 91 Billrica Road. This is not a continuance. William Harvey is seeking a variance under 195.9 conformity for relief of the requirement contained of the definition of lot area in Article XX of the Chelmsford zoning bylaw, that where there is less than 50 feet of width in any portion of a lot, the smaller portion of the lot shall not be used for computing the minimum lot area. The applicant seeks a variance to allow the smaller portion of the lot having a lot width of less than 50 feet in the computation of lot area and any other relief deemed necessary. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. How are you? William Harvey.
Your address too, Ms. Harvey, please?
William Harvey, 71 North Road, Chelmsford.
Thank you. Want to let this get up on the screen and we can walk through this?
I know. The last one was going the other way. I don't know what that means.
But it looks as though the town's requirement of 50 feet, as this is shown, if I'm reading this correctly, has been reduced to, is it 2 feet?
Mr. Chairman, I think a better explanation is that the town's requirement of 50 feet, anything, for any strip that is less than 50 feet, any of the land, including within that strip, but also on the other end of it, is not allowed to be counted within the definition of lot area. So the relief that is being requested is, and that's part of the definition of lot area. It states, when the distance between any 2 points on lot lines is less than 50 feet, measured in a straight line, the smaller portion of the lot which is bounded by such straight lines shall not be considered in computing the minimum lot area, unless the distance along such lot lines between such 2 points is less than 150 feet. So we're in excess of the 150 feet, we're at less than 50 feet of width, there is sufficient lot area on the other end of that that would make parcel 2 conforming.
So the combined
so-
numbers of 11,775, and that's really a hard time to, I'm not sure I understand the lot area of the, I'll call it the original lot on Billrica Road. What is the lot area on that?
Much better. You can at least read that one upside down.
Okay, so this one is 90, so parcel 2 is the larger portion, is that correct? 11,775, it's not listed up there,
I think,
but here we have 9126.
I think it might be helpful to get a little bit of a history of what has occurred at the site, so we know how we got to where we are. Thought maybe the applicant would present that history.
Just leave? Yeah?
We should also inform the applicant of the four-person.
Yes, actually, that's a very good point, Steve.
Mr. Arian, I'm sorry to inform you of this, but we are a board of 4 this evening. It would have to be a unanimous decision in order to approve.
Right, I was waiting for that. I
I
was,
apologize, I should have been very upfront with that, and I apologize.
Mr. Reedy, could I make a request? I know this request is sometimes brought, I'm not too sure whether the request is brought before the Board of Appeals, but on certain occasions, it goes before the planning board, where the applicant is allowed to make a presentation, get some feedback.
Oh, we would accept a presentation without problem, sir. No worries. If you have,
And sometimes they ask for like a straw poll, just so I have a general idea on where you're going. And I should have talked to all my neighbors, which I think you know I have a history that I usually do. Just unfortunately, I made a mistake not talking to everybody. So by talking to them in the last
if you'd
second,
like
it's
to
probably not good.
explain what you intend to do here, it would be very helpful.
So, I don't want to, it's kind of complicated, but I think that to cut things really short is, I believe if, rather than having me go through the history of the land and the law and the A&R process that supports everything that I've done, I think that if your question directly to town council was, did Mr. Harvey do everything legally to do what he's done today, which I have. Because a lot of people look at it like, how do you do this? How can this be done? It just doesn't make any sense. But through the A&R process and the subdivision control law, which was passed in 1953, there was the subdivision control law, and then also a portion of that law dealt with the A&R process. So with the A&R process, deals with whether or not the lots or the parcels contain the appropriate frontage, and whether or not the parcels have access to a public way. And that's more or less all that the planning board is required to endorse. So even though by doing this A&R process in the beginning, which creates a non-conforming lot that was originally conforming with regards to lot area, it's permissible. And the leading case on that is Smalley versus the Planning Board of Harwich, which this was identical facts, more or less, to the case with regards to the case of Smalley versus the Planning Board of Harwich. And in that case, it was a 1980 case that was decided by the Supreme Judicial Court, whereby a property owner, just like myself, had a legal 23,000 square foot lot. Their lot may have been different, which was completely legal. And it was subdivided legally through the A&R process. It's approval not required. And that's allowed as long as you show that it has frontage, which both of these areas had, and they both have access, vital access, to a public way. That's all that needs to get shown before the planning board. The planning board can't say, hold on a second here, you just created an illegal lot out of lot, let's say 91 Billerica Road, which we're here today. You reduced it, it doesn't meet the 20,000 square feet anymore with regards to the zoning table. That was the denial by the town of Harwich. And more or less, the Supreme Judicial Court noted that although they created an illegal lot, the A&R plan still had to be approved. And that's what I did. But also, the Supreme Judicial Court noted, and this was obviously the plan of mine in the future, was there's nothing stopping a landowner from purchasing another parcel nearby to make that now non-conforming lot conforming. So during this process, I was always talking to the owners of 85 Billerica Road, which is it up there? 85 Billerica Road is above parcel 2, okay? That right there was one large lot, which consisted of approximately 24,000 square feet. So I cut off a parcel of that, which would allow me to connect to 91 Billerica Road, which brings 91 Billerica Road now into conformance with regards to lot area. 91 Billerica Road conforms in all respects to the zoning table of dimensions, which, Mr. Reedy, I know you're a well-known builder in town. And as a builder, this is the first thing that we always look at. So we look at the table of dimensions, and if there's a lot for sale and it's in the RC district, does it have the 20,000? The answer is yes. That's great. If it meets all these requirements, looks like we have a building lot. That was my intention, is make this part of parcel 2. The proposed lot up top number 1 I own. That's under construction right now for a 2-family. Parcel number 2 would be connected to parcel number 1, which would bring it back to a legally conforming lot in the RC district, which would be over 20,000 square feet.
I have a question on what you did. You said parcel number 2 will be connected to parcel number 1. You're referring to parcel number 1 on the bottom right there.
Is that what you're?
I meant this one.
Yeah, okay, because that didn't, yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
thanks.
Yes.
That's what I assumed, but.
So, having that all hammered out, buying 85 Billerica Road, and then reconfiguring this, I applied for a building permit for another parcel, and it was, I received a building permit. Building inspector at that time believed I got the building permit here, believe the same thing I did, is everything's all legal. However, the one thing that the table of dimensions doesn't tell you is you look at it, they have all the notes, you take a look at the notes. However, there's no note on there that tells you to reference the back of the Chapter 195 zoning of Chelmsford. In order to know that you needed this 50 feet in width, you have to go to the back of the book under the definitions of what lot width is. And again, like I said, it doesn't show it here, but it's hidden in this book under definitions. So, with that respect, the building inspector advised me that I'll need a variance based on the parcel of land connecting, which is not 50 feet in width. However, I'm still confused about the length. It says if it's less than 150 feet, it doesn't apply. The length of that line is 108 feet. So that's just the background with regards to how these lots have come before you. So if you'd allow me just to go into a brief history of the property. Unless you have some questions about.
No, please go into the
Okay.
history. I'd like to
So,
understand this better.
Mr. Chairman, can I just address one question that Attorney Harvey just raised? And I'm taking a look at the portion of the bylaw that defines lot area. And your question with regards to if the distance along such lines is less than 150 feet, it looks like you add them according to figure 1.
Could you tell me what page you're on, Paul?
I'm on the definitions of
Lot area?
195-108, definition of lot area. And I will defer to the building inspector on this calculation, but it does direct you to figure 1, and how that's determined. And it looks like they're adding the various points to get to the, you get a 130 plus 130, which was above 150. So I think that answers the question, but again, I really didn't look at this previously.
I'll read this out loud, if that will help things. Lot area. The horizontal area of the lot, exclusive of any area in a street or recorded way open to public use. At least 80% of the lot area required for zoning compliance shall be contiguous land other than that under any water body, bog, swamp, wet meadow, marsh, or other wetland, as amended. When the distance between any 2 points on lot lines is less than 50 feet, measured in a straight line, the smaller portion of the lot, which is bounded by a straight line, shall not be considered in computing the minimum lot area unless the distance along such a lot line between the 2 points is less than 150 feet. Suggest we see the accompanying diagram below, but my book, okay, it's on the next page. So, Mr. Dunn, where are you now in the process of this? You own at this point the larger parcel on
Parcel 2.
Grove Street, at the end of Grove Street?
Struggling with this one.
That is your parcel. And you have subdivided that to create a second parcel of land.
Correct. I purchased this property, which was 85 Billerica Road. I went before the planning board for an A&R process. To have this as one lot, which is over 20,000 square feet, to create a parcel. It's not a buildable lot, just a parcel of land which I was able to subdivide. I own this. In addition, I own this, and I own this, and not too long ago, I owned a lot directly down the street, which was 12-14 Palm Street, which I'm building the exact same condex here, which is under construction. So, with regards to the concept of the neighborhood's not gonna change at all. It's a matter of, you have a pre-existing house here. It's not like I'm asking for this parcel to be connected to this parcel in order for me to build 91 Billerica Road. It's to connect this parcel to this one, to put it back into compliance with zoning, which would be the over 20,000 square feet. So it's pretty much the exact
When
same.
did it leave compliance?
Excuse me?
When did 91 Billerica Road become non-compliant? So it was a pre-existing non-conforming lot?
Nope, it was 91 Billerica Road when I purchased it, was an existing conforming lot.
Then you split them.
Did it consist of what is shown as parcel 1 and parcel 2 without the long line and then the back 9126?
It did later. It wasn't at the time of the purchase. It did exist. This and this existed.
Yeah, but you
Yes.
bought 1 and 2 was really one, if you will,
Yes.
when
Yes,
you
sir.
bought it.
Yes.
Then you pulled 1 out and you made 2 separate, and you're looking now to join that with that 9126 square feet via that 50-foot strip?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the square footage of the 50-foot strip, which is 202 square feet, as well as 974, is not calculated in the square footage,
Because
which
of-
would bring it over 22,000 square feet.
I
They
got
have
you.
a different parcel.
Yeah, what was the lot for 91 Billerica Road before the A&R endorsement?
The lot
original?
size?
No, what did it consist of? It wasn't 9126.
Oh, no, it was it was 2 and 1 up top. That's how I understood it.
No, it was
No.
21B.
Am I missing it?
No.
No, I think that
When I purchased it,
Can you?
there was
it
another.
was this and this.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So you created a lot at 21B Street,
Yeah, 1-Hilda Street now.
1 to 3 Hilda Street. You created that lot subdividing out 91 Billerica Road.
Correct. Which, if you confer with town council through the A&R process, it's completely legal to do.
But
I'm not sure I would 100% agree with that. You can certainly do an A&R, and it would be a valid A&R process.
Right, that's what I was saying.
What my opinion was during the course of that proceeding was that the remainder, the other lot that was created would be subject to what's known as infectious invalidity. Okay, which means because the 91 Billerica Road parcel was made to be less than conforming, the new lot owed lot area to the other lot to make it conforming. So the idea is adding parcel 2 to 91 Billerica Road was to bring it back to more than 20,000 square feet. In which case, that would eliminate the infectious invalidity as it applies to that other lot. And that's the purpose for the request.
I'm still confused by the larger and smaller parcels. And the length of that line that I'm gonna say is 2 feet wide, the 292 square feet. Are we allowed to include what I would say is the smaller lot? Because if I'm understanding this correctly, the horizontal area, the distance between any 2 points on lot lines is less than 50 feet, measured in a straight line. The smaller portion of the lot, which is bounded by such straight line, shall not be considered in computing the minimum lot area unless the distance along such lot lines between two such points is less than 150 feet, which it is.
If you look, I'm struggling a little bit with that portion of the provision as well. But if you look at the,
It's challenging.
yeah, if you look at the diagram beneath, particularly the second figure that's showing it hatched, it seems to show I can't tell dimensions on it, so.
It looks like it's saying this is less than 50, right? So it's saying this can't be.
It's saying that this would not be countable, but the
Exactly.
question is it saying that that's more than 150? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say. I don't know.
The dimensions here are 130 by 130 times 150 feet. The hatched area is not used in minimum area calculation because it is greater than 150, but it's not.
The second
This is less than
diagram.
150.
It's the second.
So you get a better picture.
Yeah, but yeah, that's then those aren't parallel lines, so it's a little different.
They're not counting.
Don't
All
know.
right, so this is really where we are. The width is less than 50. Hatched area is not included in the minimum area calculation. Okay, this is less than 50. But it also says,
Can I ask if you're saying that this doesn't apply, or it does apply, but you're seeking a variance, or that it doesn't apply for some reason? What is your point of view?
My interpretation, in my point of view, was that according to a literal enforcement of the way it's read, it says unless, what is it, if it's less than 150 feet, it doesn't apply. So that straight line is 103.3 feet. But again,
But that really is an issue that would properly be raised as part of the appeal of the rescission of the building permit. What's in front of you tonight is actually a request for a variance.
what is your hardship, Mr. Harvey?
excuse me?
Your hardship?
Well, the hardship, Mr. Reedy,
Would be the lot
goes,
shape.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be the lot shape.
Yeah, be lunch.
is the lot shape, and the lot shape has always been in pre-existence before I purchased it and before the lot, before the lot was changed.
Which lot shape is the hardship?
Wasn't really.
The hardship, the lot
Because-
shape hardship would be related to the narrowness of
And that
less
was a
than 50 feet.
self-created hardship.
Actually, it's not a self-created hardship, because previously, the lot had the minimum square footage. And
Okay.
now it would still have the required square footage, but for the hardship that's created by the definition by the town of Chelmsford of the definition of lot area, which would require the 50 feet. So that goes to the unique shapeness of the land and also the definition, which requires that. The bylaw isn't too old. It was passed in 2005. Prior to that, it was always allowed. So with the imposition of the bylaw, that's obviously creates the hardship because it goes directly to the land in the shape and typography of the land. And
You created a hardship by subdividing 91 Billrica Road and making a lot at 21B Hildreth Street. you created a hardship on 91 Billrica Road.
Again, my position is I didn't create a hardship. Your rules specifically state, excuse me. One moment, I'm sorry. Again, with regards to the substantial hardship, the relevant criteria that's set forth in Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 10, specifically states, towards the end, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. So it leaves room opening for interpretation with regards to a hardship that has to do with the typography of the land, financial or otherwise. So my position is that when the lot was purchased, it had the minimum square footage. And again, this would have the minimum square footage with the new lot area, but for the typography of the land, which because of the town bylaw, it requires a 50-foot in the width. And there'll be no substantial degradation to the neighborhood whatsoever.
And just for historical, so I understand.
Yes, sir.
You were told, you were essentially issued a permit
Yes, I have
to
the,
go ahead and do something with that new property that we're discussing.
Yes.
But then it was rescinded.
it was rescinded. It was rescinded after I removed the trees, dug the
And-
hole,
Okay.
you know.
And
Are we talking
Mr. Harvey has
permit
appealed
for
that, and that appeal
21B?
No, I get that, but
or-
just
Or
for historical
91 Billrica
purposes.
Road?
21B.
It's kind of important. I
So
think.
you have a permit to build on 21B that has been rescinded. 21B is a lot.
but it's subject to the issue of the infectious invalidity. So he needs to make the 91 Billrica Road a conforming lot.
They gave him that land, they gave him a permit to do that, but with that was a caveat that they have to make 91 Billrica Road.
No.
Well, no,
No,
so
no.
Oh, I have it right
the
here.
applicant went to the planning
Wilbur
board.
Street.
The applicant went to the planning board, obtained an endorsement of an approval not required plan that created this new lot and left 91 Billrica Road at its existing size without the parcel 2 being added to it. Okay, at that existing size, does not comply with zoning. Under the doctrine of infectious invalidity, that means the other parcel owes whatever additional lot area is necessary to the first lot to make it conforming, otherwise it can't obtain a building permit. Okay?
So the permit is contingent upon receiving,
It's not contingent, it was just mistakenly issued because the
was just a
issue of
mistake.
the infectious invalidity was not picked up at the time. And I think beyond that, it wasn't just the infectious invalidity wasn't picked up. The issue of the 50-foot strip, I think it was presumed that the addition of parcel 2 gave that lot the necessary 20,000 plus square feet, therefore eliminating the infectious invalidity on the other lot. And then it was determined that that was not correct after the bylaw was looked at in a little more detail.
But meanwhile, he had already been allowed to subdivide and start to work on the other one, and he was under the
It's
assumption.
separate transactions. So there was an A&R that was endorsed that split off the 91 Billerica Road with the other parcel. There was a new A&R that created parcel 2 in that long strip to attach to what was left of 91 Billerica Road.
Okay.
Nothing was done, by any board or department in this town that said this is contingent upon you doing that. This is just how the applicant has pursued the development of the property.
And board members, sometimes you guys like to take site walks at the scene, but I took a picture for you, see the general idea. So, you just want to take a look at that, sir.
Sure. Whoops.
The diagram on the back is the actual neighborhood, which shows all the lot sizes. So it's more or less in conformity with all the lots that are surrounding the neighborhood. And that whole neighborhood is zoned RC. This area right here is actually the lot that was all dug out. That area was previously a commercial site that had a bus company that ran out of it for about 50 years. So, with reliance on the building permit,
This must be 91.
Yeah, exactly.
with regards to the building permit, reliance on the building permit, that whole area was cleared, all the trees are removed, foundation hole was dug, and it was actually the day the cement truck came is when the building inspector came and put a halt to it. So that's the current state, and I know that the neighbors aren't too happy. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now. I was required by the town to put up a 4-foot privacy fence with no trespassing signs and to knock down the sides for safety.
You don't often get pictures from 200 feet straight up.
Mr. Chairman, could I be allowed to read my project narrative?
Certainly.
Thank you. The property at 91 Billerica Road is located in a general RC zoning district. Oh, I'm sorry. A second.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As I said, the property at 91 Billerica Road is located in the general residence RC zoning district, which permits single and two-family dwellings. The property currently consists, as we've already spoken of 9,126 square feet of land with frontage on Billerica Road. The historically significant Hildreth House was constructed in 1874, which is situated on the site. The Hildreth House was constructed by one of the many descendants of Richard Hildreth, one of the founders of the town of Chelmsford. It is not known when Mr. Hildreth came to New England from Durham, England, but he was chosen as a selectman of Cambridge, Mass. in 1645. He was also a sergeant in the militia. He later moved to Woburn, Massachusetts, and subsequently petitioner for a grant of land in Chelmsford in 1653. In 1663, he petitioned the General Court of Massachusetts for more land in Chelmsford, stating that he had a wife, many small children, and being a husband that was greatly disadvantaged since he did not have the use of his right hand and was unable to work. The following year, the court granted him an additional 105 acres. Richard and his wife, Sarah, had 2 children, and his second wife, Elizabeth, had 7 children, all whom resided in the town of Chelmsford. In 1972, William Spence, who we all know very well, and his wife, Patricia, purchased the house from Frederick Ayer Hildreth. Up until his death in 2015, Mr. Spence, a local businessman and town constable for more than half of a century, and his wife, who had predeceased him, resided at the house at 91 Billerica Road. Mr. Spence used the rear portion of his residence, consisting of a large paved area, to operate Town and Country Transportation Company, which provided transportation services to many of the Chelmsford area students for nearly 50 years. So there was a large portion, say more than approximately 50% of the land was paved and utilized for commercial purposes. With Mr. Spence's death, the property was vacant. It was also in significant disrepair, and the Spence family sold the property to myself on December 22nd, 2016. My initial purpose and intent in purchasing the property, due to the fact that it was close to the Chelmsford Center, it complied with almost all the requirements for housing that the Chelmsford Housing Authority seeks. My initial purpose was to obtain a comprehensive permit through this board and to demolish the existing house and develop the property for its highest and best use, which at that time I believed was a multi-family 12-unit senior housing. That plan was presented to the Chelmsford Housing Authority, who supported the concept. Another multifamily concept was also presented and approved by both the Chelmsford Housing Authority and also the Chelmsford Housing Advisory Board. That concept consisted of building multiple duplexes on the property. However, when I submitted an application for the demolition permit of this house, and had a meeting with the Chelmsford Historic Commission, the commission determined that the property was historically significant, which would have only delayed demolition permit for 1 year. And also they provided me the history and significance of the home, and they requested for me that I preserve the home due to the historical significance that that board thought it consisted of. Therefore, I decided to seek alternative avenues with regards to the property and the rear portion of the property. And also, at that time, I was also in discussions with the Carey's family. Mr. Carey's worked for the Chelmsford Cemetery Commission for many years until his death. His wife resided in the house by herself up until her 90s. Her son contacted me and asked me whether or not I'd be interested in purchasing it, because I did have some interest prior to that, and I asked him if he ever decided to purchase, to sell it, to make sure that he contacted me first. And he said, as a man of his word, he allowed me to make a first offer on the house, and we came to a mutual consideration of purchasing the house. Obviously, purchasing the house, I certainly took into consideration the excess land. That was one of the main reasons of purchasing the house, that he had the excess land that I could connect to 91 Billerica Road. At that time, me believing that that would make 91 Billerica Road conforming to the 20,000 square feet requirement. So I did pay more than the house was worth. I believe that the board already knows that I work closely with the Historical Commission on my properties in the town. I've renovated and preserved those properties, which include 75 North Road, the Simeon Spalding House, 34 North Road, which was built in 1858, the Thomas Marshall House out in East Chelmsford that was recently before this board, my own personal residence at 71 North Road, which was built in 1919 by the boys from the training school in East North Chelmsford that my grandfather was a superintendent of. And most recently, I worked with the Historic Commission on renovating and reconstructing 15 Wilson Street. Let's see. 15 Wilson Street, which is right around the corner.
Try to stay on point if you can, Mr.
Yep.
Harvey.
Yes, sir. So under the current local zoning, lot area is defined in Chapter 195, Article 20. The terminology that, Mr. Reedy, you've already defined. So I'll skip that. The variance application is to permit the calculation of lot area between 91 Billerica Road and Parcel 2 without the required 50 feet in distance between 2 points on a lot line, which is less than 50 feet. The variance, if granted, will permit 91 Billerica Road, Parcel 2 to be calculated together as a lot area, which will permit 91 Billerica Road to be increased by 11,775 feet. A literal enforcement of the definition of lot area would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, and otherwise to the applicant. And once again, with regards to the definition of lot area, I bring your attention to the last sentence, which states the distance along such lot lines between two such points is less than 150. That shall not be considered in computing the minimum lot area. According to the lot line, it's 103 feet. Granting the variance will have little impact on the area. I'm not asking for the variance, granting the variance will have little impact on the area, and the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw will be met. Will not substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw, nor be detriment to the neighborhood. The hardship is due to the unique shape, typography of the two abutting properties, which abut each other by 15 feet in width at the rear. And obviously, what's required by the definition would be 50 feet, but for the unique shape and typography of the parcels, the requirement 50 feet in width to calculate the property area. The lot would otherwise meet all zoning requirements. So 91 Billerica Road meets all zoning requirements other than the lot area. And again, with regards to the table of dimensions, if you look at that, which shows all the requirements that are required in order to have a house, it meets all the RC zoning requirements. Doesn't have any definition of depth, but that was my problem. It's in the back of the book. It was never pointed out. In fact, not only did I overlook that, but also the building inspector overlooked that, which issued the building permit. And I know that there are some neighbors in the room that I know they're not too happy about what transpired at that vacant lot with the big hole, but it is what it is. I abided by all the requests by the building inspector. Stopped the construction, put up a fence, and left it the way it was. The proposal as it stands is certainly a very, very good proposal for the neighborhood, as opposed to alternative avenues that could be pursued. And I did talk to a couple of the neighbors, and when I do projects, I do send out letters, I reach out to my neighbors, and, you know, try and meet what their concerns are, as I did at Plum Street, which there was no variance required at Plum Street. I built a two-family, talked to the neighbors. I didn't put any.
Again, we'll try to stay with this one, Mr.
Yes,
Harvey.
sir. So I just wanted to bring
What
that to
is
your
the
attention.
square footage of the 21B Street Development LLC, or the 1 to 3 Hilders Street? What is the area of that lot?
21,000.
That's 21 at this point, so there's really no additional space of maybe 1,000 or less than 1,000 feet that could be added to try and expand that connection between the two.
Looked at it, every single avenue that was possible. My engineer looked at it. I had a second engineer take a look at it. My neighbor to the right of 91 Billerica Road He's a very good neighbor. He keeps up his properties nice. We get along very well. You know, he does have some land over there. However, I completely agree with him. He doesn't want to try and sell any land to me, which I totally understand. It's his property. He should be able to do what he wants. But at least I did reach out and try to do something. And even at that point, it was still pretty close. I think it could have been done, but again, he just didn't want to give up ownership of the parcel, even though I was willing to, you know, give a exclusive use easement. Being a lawyer, somebody else not being a lawyer, you know.
It's his land, he can do what he wants.
Exactly.
I'm going to open this up, if there are no questions from the board now, to the audience. If anyone is in favor or against this parcel, please approach the podium, give me your name and address, and speak your piece.
One at a time. Just gonna be a line.
Hi, I'm Bruce Faulkner at 5 Hildreth Street. Are we continuing this on as a vote on the variance? I know there was some discussion before whether this was just a presentation.
We intend to, when we've reached the end,
All right.
have a
But
vote
we're
on
going through
this.
the normal process at this point. I was a little confused leading into this as to what this
I mean, the
process
variance
was.
is in front of us, and
Okay.
we'll hear testimony and then render a decision. Well, I don't know if that'll be tonight, but that will be the
All
way
right.
it goes.
All right. I am the abutter on two sides of this, both the parcel, Lot B, and in the back of us, proposed parcel 2 or parcel 2.
Yep, on the screen.
At this time, sir, parcel 2 does exist.
Right.
91 Billerica Road
That
exists.
abuts us
and
at our
1
back.
Gilder Street exists. The conjoining of the two is the
Right.
variance request at this point.
Right. So our property is like right in the middle of everything going on right now.
Right. Bruce and Melody.
Right.
Okay.
And we've been concerned about this since over a year ago, since it first started. It wasn't until tonight that we actually sat down just before he went on and talked. So we had no contact or outreach or attempt to be reached by the developer or anything regarding this. So to us, that set a tone that there was no concern about how we felt about what was going on. We've seen a lot of work done. We've seen a lot of trees removed, a lot of excavation. It has changed our lot. It has changed our skyline. Now, I know we're talking about the 91 Billerica Road, but this very much involves that Lot B. So I guess in listening to the presentation regarding hardship, I would have to agree that this is a self-imposed hardship because of the way the lot was divided after purchase, that it is the way it is, and I would hope, I guess, that the zoning board would enforce the zoning laws under this, whatever they might be. If you have any questions or.
I can appreciate your concerns. You said you're
Five
certainly,
Hildreth?
directly affected.
5 Hildreth, yes.
He's this corner lot right here. Oh, this whole piece, yeah.
And we've lived there for 20 years, so we knew the Bill Spence and the operation that he had going there. It was a little less than industrial. I mean, there were oversized vans and a gravel lot, really, that he had for special needs kids. So. All set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening?
Chris Turpening, 4 Hildreth Street. So my property is the property directly across from, I guess, the new proposed lot there where he intends to build his condex. I purchased the home back in March of 2017, moved in April. I think it was the week that we had moved in when the the clear cutting, the construction began. So I don't blame Mr. Harvey for not reaching out because it was a transition period. He probably wasn't sure that I was there. And we had talked in the past and seen each other in the neighborhood. But my main concern is, for a year now I've been staring at a demolition zone, clear cut trees, and due to the removal of the permit, it's been piles of dirt and giant holes and construction fencing. Before that occurred, there was a nice tree line kind of blocking that paved area behind, so it was a nice looking lot from my perspective. So my concerns are, of course, for my property value and what this may mean. I'm in the military, so I move very often, so I may have to sell my house if I get reassigned next year. And if this is still an issue, I'm very concerned about what that would do for my ability to sell the house. So I, from what I understand in talking with Mr. Harvey, is that if this variance is not approved, then what he would be left with is that conforming lot and the non-conforming lot from the original Hildreth house property. And what he has indicated that he intends to do is do 40B housing there because of, and I tried to do my research and understand the flexibility of the zoning laws that come along with that. So I'm not sure if that is even a possibility. But of course, I do have concerns for my property value if that is the type of property that he chooses to build there if he's not able to build that condex.
Go ahead.
Question to make sure I understand.
Yes.
Your concern is not necessarily what he's trying to build right now. It's that you don't want it to stay in the state that it's in.
Current state, right. So I know the property that is built around the corner, the condex, it's, from my understanding, is going to look pretty much identical to that for the most part. So, it's better than what the alternative is, which is either that lot stays a vacant mess if this doesn't get approved, or if he's able to get the approval with the 40B housing, I'm not in support of that.
Just to clarify,
Right.
at this moment, and for the next 10 months, is that accurate? We're in safe harbor, and that means that no 40Bs have to be built.
Correct.
Where the town is quite tied building 40Bs. Right now, we're in safe harbor, which would give us great freedom to deny or approve a 40B.
Okay.
And if the housing inventory continues as we expect it will, we will be at the 10% affordable housing rate, which will allow us to have great control over which 40Bs are built.
Right.
That doesn't mean that 40Bs won't be built, we just won't be as constricted as to saying no.
Sure.
We'll have options.
Okay. So if the outcome of this eventually, because I realize there's a lot of connecting pieces here, if the outcome is that he's not able to build this condex and say the 40B is not an option either, is there any requirement for him to return the lot to some sort of condition that's would be presentable?
I'll let the building inspector respond to that.
I would really defer that to the Board of Health, but I believe there are minimum maintenance standards that would be enforced in a situation like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
I appreciate that.
Right. Thank you.
One more?
There's more.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Bruce McMaster. I reside with my wife at 6 Hilda Street on a house that my dad built in 1957 and property that my grandfather owned since the beginning of the 20th century. My objection to all of this, because I don't understand all of the ramifications of lot size and everything else, is that the gentleman says he reaches out to we were never notified of anything. All those trees were suddenly gone. Everybody that visited
Well,
me,
that would be his right.
I understand that. I understand that, but he's contesting that I always reach out. There was no reaching out.
I appreciate that.
You know, that is a problem. The first picture of this development that went up there was almost an identical picture to the duplex around the corner on Plum. From what I'm understanding here, this is not a duplex, size-wise. Sounded like he said single family.
We haven't seen plans for Hilder Street, though. I believe the town has. We haven't. So I don't know what is anticipated on parcel 1 to 3. Is it a two-family at this time, Mr. Arthur, your intent there? Sir, if you'd like, you could come around. Actually, Mr. Arthur, would you mind just showing the audience as well? Show there's curiosity there.
Yeah, just like the one on Plum. Yes, sir. So, I don't know how many people know that area, but the area on Plum was a big, big lot.
Yeah.
This sucker is gonna be plopped down in there, I don't know.
Same size lot.
Okay.
Yep. This right here is 20,000. Oops, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yep.
It doesn't look the same size, that's all I'm saying.
You think the lot that we're looking at is a smaller lot?
We are.
Mr. Chairman, it's been obviously certified by an engineer, and the lot is the same size as Plum Street. Plum Street was exactly 20,000, maybe 20,100.
Any other comments or concerns from the audience this evening? Seeing none, I think that we can,
So,
have no letters. We have-
one thing that I'd like to say is, I knew I made a big mistake, and I don't know why I did it. Every project I do, I always send out a pamphlet just like this to all the abutters. I reached out to the abutters, and I apologize for not doing it. I have no explanation of why I did it this time. There was one day I did go around the neighborhood with a petition, just so that you'd see it. I went to three abutters. One was here. I talked to his wife, and she said that she didn't get anything in the mail. And I went and I talked to another person. They said they never get anything in the mail from the town. So, despite...
I think they would be notified of this hearing, but not necessarily the planning board hearing.
No, not the planning board. We're talking,
Well, and-
nothing was at the planning board.
I think more importantly, they wouldn't be notified about a building permit application.
Correct.
The initial thought with regards to developing that lot was that it wasn't going to need any sort of relief from
Right.
this board, which is why the applicant didn't reach out to the neighborhood,
But
which he might normally do when he is seeking some form of relief.
I had the building permit, that's why I cut down the trees. I mean, the trees are on my property. They're large pine trees. As you know, Mr. Reedy is a builder. First thing the insurance company does is they come out and they look and they say, we want all the trees down. So the trees I took down were just overgrown pine trees that were extremely dangerous in the neighborhood. There was no really viable trees like a nice oak tree or, stuff like that. And it was coming along fine until, unfortunately, we have what it is right now. It's not like I went in, tore down trees, dug a hole without a building permit, and didn't go to the town to try and comply with all the zoning requirements, and unfortunately, this is where we are today. So, I honestly think that, again, this will enhance the neighborhood. It's a lot better than what's gonna be there, what's gonna stay there. The up 85 Billerica Road up in that area, that was an old deteriorated house with an old garage. That's gonna be an absolutely beautiful, beautiful site up there. Again, it's the exact same plan. And again, the neighbors on Plum Street were nothing but happy. They're still happy today. When I reached out to them, I didn't put windows on the side. I put up fencing along the decks, things like that. So, and we have, two very good people living in town. One's a nuclear scientist, and another one's an engineer. So that's what we're attracting today with new housing is people with high degrees and professional type of people. So, if the board feels more comfortable, I might feel more comfortable to continue the hearing, at least so I could talk to the neighbor, see what we can talk to about, buffer zones. With regards to the neighbor that lives right next door, there is, that lives right here. This right here is a very, very high hill. It's very high. So there's privacy. They did have a concern when they told me you cut down pine trees, but still it's just nothing but a tree. I could come back after talking to them, plant, have a consensus about having a nice planting of hemlocks there that would block it off. And then they also had a concern about up here with some of the trees removed, but they had to been about erosion. But that whole hill up there is completely, it's all sand. The water isn't going anywhere. There isn't going to be any deterioration with the grades to the hill. But if I had an opportunity to speak with them, they might feel more comfortable if I planted a row of trees before the next
I would
hearing.
certainly accept a motion to continue, that you can talk with the neighbors and try to find a way to appease them. I'm really quite torn on what the right thing to do is. I think, I really don't, I would like to research a little more the variance and the 50-foot and the 150-foot and try and understand how that applies.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a very good idea. I would like to have the opportunity to discuss that with the building inspector. He hasn't had a chance really to look at that prior to tonight.
Okay.
It wasn't a provision, I think, that was really discussed when the permit was revoked. It certainly wasn't brought to my attention, so I wasn't
And I
focusing
know
on
it's
that
a
portion.
transitional issue as well, which makes things much more difficult.
And if it's determined that a variance is not necessary, certainly you wouldn't want to be granting one. So I think putting this off and dealing with both issues at the same time is probably advisable. But you would need an extension, so the deadline, there's a 100-day deadline from when a variance application is filed to when the board has to make a decision. And that deadline, did you say it was October 7th?
October 7th.
And the next hearing is October 4th. You only have to make your decision within the 100-day
Yes,
period, and
we
then you
don't
have a
have to write it.
14-day period after that to actually render it and file it with the town clerk. So I don't think you need an extension at this point.
Okay. If anyone else would like to speak in favor of that, we're not going to close the hearing. If something to say tonight, the podium is yours, and if not, we're going to continue this till October 4th, same room, same building, and look at it again. Mr. Harvey is going to reach out to the neighbors and try to find a way to make this more palatable. I'm at a loss of what the right thing to do is, so I'll let a little more research and get a clearer picture of how this is going to work legally.
I have a question about continuing it to a meeting 2 days before the expiration.
Yeah.
If something happens and we can't get these 4 people to the meeting, what happens at that point?
The Mullen rule is an option.
No. I think your issue is if you don't have a quorum to actually close the hearing and render a decision, no matter what that decision might be. Mullen rule wouldn't prohibit you from closing the hearing, taking a vote, if you didn't have enough positive votes. Because of the lack of the Mullen rule, it would wind up being a rejection. I think Steve's question is more, what if the hurricane hits and we're unable to get into town hall that day, and therefore you wind up going past the 100-day period? So
What is the consequence
That's a
of
good
going
point.
past the 100 days?
it's a constructive grant.
Should we ask for a continuance?
I think that's
Extension.
probably, given a 2-week extension of that period to the 21st. That would allow the scheduling of another hearing within 2 weeks if something happened and we were unable to meet on the 4th.
It's up to you, sir.
Can I think about that? I don't want to be difficult, but
You can think about that, certainly, but the board's gonna need a
The
response
other board is
before-
allowed, the other board members are allowed to
Determination to
watch
continue.
this.
That's the next question I was gonna ask. That's what I figured is, even though
It's-
there's 4 members, you can
it's
still have
not a-
another board member.
It's not a Mullen Rule issue.
Right.
It's an issue of whether or not the board can actually show up and actually make a determination on that date.
Right.
Right, so if for some reason town hall is closed because of a
Okay.
storm or something else, and we can't be here for the
Right.
board to actually to take any action whatsoever,
I was thinking of it.
then you're gonna wind up past the 100-day period, and the board's gonna back into a constructive
I was thinking of it as a different way, but
Right.
I don't have a concern with that. That's fine.
So you'll
I
give
can
us a-
send you a letter tomorrow as I usually do, to extend it for 2
So
weeks.
just send a letter extending the time to act to October 21st.
I'll do it tonight. That's all I remember.
With that, I'd ask for a motion to continue the hearing until October 4th, or some later date, or hurricane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Know something we don't know?
I know everything.
No, but I don't like. No, that's a good point. I actually do that a lot.
Like these, Mr. Harvey, or is that have that in the record?
just save it for the next meeting?
Go for it now.
Yeah, I'll hold it.
Is there anything? So, Colleen, you're gonna need, comes on.
October 21st is what we want the extension till.
Well, one of them needs to be
Who can-
submitted into the record.
Because this is already a continued
How
hearing.
about there was an extra one?
Bill, do you have an extra, so I can have it for the record?
of that
what you're
booklet?
The last one.
handed to the board?
One just has to be
Because
submitted
you can only
into the
miss
record.
one. So there's the group at the,
So this was a new,
I think we
This
just
is new.
continued it, Jen.
this was new?
this was new.
Hi, have a good night, Mark.
We didn't
Nice
hear
meeting you.
anything.
Continued though.
It was on, but we didn't hear anything. We just did like a
Because-
motion.
this is the
Like
continued
we did the
public
first
hearings.
one.
Right.
That one, I think we do a motion to continue.
So we're gonna take 5 minutes here, so just if you need to take a breath, feel free.
Well,
it has to be unanimous for approval. And do you wish to continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
So just to refresh everyone's memory, I'm going to read this in. This is 10 to 12 Bulgarian Terrace, 53 Woodbine Street, lot 41, 140, 69 Woodbine Street, by Greg Haladania for a variance under 195-9 conformity. One, to create two non-conforming lots from existing non-conforming lots, 53 Woodbine Street and 41 and 140, 69, that will not conform to the requirements of the RB district lot area lot frontage. Two, subdivide an existing non-conforming lot, two houses on one lot, lot 41, 140, 42, 10 and 12 Bulgarian Terrace, into two lots that will not conform to the requirements in the RB district lot area, lot frontage, and any other zoning relief that may be deemed necessary. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Greg Haladina, 56 Central Square, Chelmsford. I'm here for the applicant, Mr. Steve Dolgarian. He's not here tonight. He wasn't feeling well, but this is a hearing. It was opened back in June, at our June 7th meeting. And I'll bring you up to speed. Obviously, it's been a long time. Mr. Dolgarian is asking for zoning relief to clean up several long-standing problems on land that he owns on Woodbine Street and Bulgarian Terrace. I'll just tell you the situation we have, what the problems are, how it happened, and the solution that the planning board approved. We have a plan that was approved by the planning board, and it also requires this is land owned by Mr. Dolgarian. It's 2 acres in total, and it's 3 separate deeded parcels, separate tax bills. It's the parcel outlined in yellow, which is both in Chelmsford and in Lowell, and that's 1.25 acres. And that is one single lot, and it actually has on it 2 dwellings, a 2-family home, which is 10 and 12 Bulgarian Terrace, and a single-family home, which is 14 Bulgarian Terrace. There's also a single-family home on a parcel that's outlined in green here, which is about 4/10 of an acre. That's 53 Woodbine Terrace. And then there's another lot, which is about just short of 4/10 of an acre. That's a single lot, which is undeveloped. So there's actually 3 lots, all same ownership, all connected, totaling approximately 2 acres. Now, the problems that we have that I mentioned, none of the dwellings, either the 10-12 Bulgarian or the 14 or the 53, are tied into sewer. They all have private septic. Actually, these 2 don't even have water. They're on wells, 10, 12, and 14. And the public way, which is Bulgarian Terrace, presently ends right here at the edge of 53 Bulgarian Woodbine Street. And that creates a couple problems. One, access to these 2 dwellings that are a single lot is gained over 53 and then up through the driveway, which is known as Bulgarian Terrace. And then second, the neighboring owner at 55 Woodbine Street is landlocked and only has access to a public way over 53. The way this happened, to make a long story short, and I know I mentioned this at the last hearing, but Mr. Dolgarian's parents back in the 1920s acquired this house, 53 Woodbine Terrace and Woodbine Street. And it actually had access from Chelmsford Street down here. But Route 3 access ramp was installed, and then access then became for 53 over Woodbine Street. In the late 50s, Demoulas needed land for the Eastgate Plaza. So they bought more land from Mr. Dolgarian's father and actually relocated a house that was on the property to up here, which is the current site of the 1012 Bulgarian Terrace property. And at that time, the town extended Woodbine Street all the way to the edge of 53, but never brought it any further. And what Demoulas did was actually pave an extension for access for 55, and then to get up to this 10, 12, and ultimately to 14. And those are the problems we have. And to solve this, where you have no utilities, you have a landlocked neighbor, you have parcels getting access over number 53. To solve the whole problem, we went to the planning board, and we did what's a conventional 4-lot subdivision. And we called it this lot, and I can show you how that changed. What we would do is extend the public way, which is Woodbine Street, all the way to the edge of where number 55 is. So at least number 55 would now have access to a public way. And that would actually increase the frontage along Woodbine Street for number 53. And we would split into 2 lots. The 2 separate houses are now on 1 lot, which is 1012 Bulgarian Terrace and 14 Bulgarian Terrace. And both of them would have frontage at least on the public way. And then you would have the vacant lot here, which is number 6G, which is slightly reconfigured. So what you'll have is an extended public way, which Mr. Darian has agreed he would extend it, pave it, and put in a drainage system to solve some of the drainage problems they've had. We will tie in the properties to the utilities, the sewer and the water. And that would solve all of the problems. You would have actually separate lots for separate dwellings, which would now each have frontage, albeit insufficient. And we've slightly reconfigured the vacant lot and the number 53 Woodbine Street parcel. Now, quite frankly, the key to the entire project was being able to maintain this separate vacant lot as a buildable lot. And that would obviously finance the extension of the public way, the installation of the drainage systems, and the installation of the utilities for the benefit of everyone. So besides the potential new dwelling on what is now 6G, this lot in blue, everything in the field will be the same, other than improvements you'll have in to the public way, which is extended, and the installation of utilities. Nothing will be different, although it will now be 4 separate lots. We're just maintaining and asking for relief for buildability for the blue outline lot, which is 6G. The hardship here, I guess you could first consider the shape of the lot. We have, in essence, what is now 3 lots, which are all commonly owned, and they're contiguous. So in essence, what you have is one large lot with 3 structures on it, and you have a way and a private way on the property. And that would also be soil conditions, I would argue, but it's the odd shape of the lot with a house basically cutting off the remainder of the blue parcel, which is the keystone to the whole project to finance the extension of the street, the drainage improvements, and the utilities. We don't believe there'd be any detriment to the neighborhood. As I said, everything will remain the same. We've conferred with the owners of number 55, who was actually Mr. Dolgarian's niece and nephews. They're here tonight. They've spoken with the town engineer, who has submitted a letter this evening, and we seem to be all on board with it. The property, we would agree to extend the street and install the drainage for the building permit for the new lot if the board sees fit to approve these variances. We were asked at the last meeting, if you recall, to at least show a footprint for what we would put on lot 6G, the vacant lot. And I had our engineer do that, and we've submitted it. And I think if you look at the first page of the plan, show the footprint, so at least we'll know what we're dealing with. And that was a concern of the neighbors at 55. They wanted to know what was proposed for 6G. So a proposed dwelling was put in, and our engineer also put in tables showing setbacks that exist and what's required.
For the new lot, because everything else is not changing. It's, well, I guess it'll be some.
Well, all the lots were reconfigured. Actually, some of them have more frontage on a public way, but they all still are non-conforming. So the way I structured this application is asking for a variance on each of the 4 lots.
I'm in full support of doing this. I just would like to speak with that gentleman, the niece, and if you guys, you had concerns, and I respect them. I just want to make sure you're understanding what's happening now, and you feel this is a positive step for you. You'll get sewer, you'll get water. You have water. Good for you. That's good. Yes, and if you could just give us your name, please. That would be
Audrey Dominion, 25 Bentley Lane, and I'm joined by my brothers, and we're the owners of 55 Woodbine Street. And our concerns were with the flooding the water that comes down the hill, because we're at the bottom. And we spoke with Christina, the town engineer, and she had recommendations. And we would be in favor of the Bulgarian subdivision if the recommendations are observed. In particular, if the road is built with the drainage before the house before the lot is sold and a house is developed.
Do you have a comment on that, sir? Is that feasible?
Yeah, the recommendation of the town engineer was that no building permit issue for the vacant lot, assuming.
Until the
variance is
road,
granted.
and you're
Until the-
comfortable with that?
It was a recommendation, and it is a conventional subdivision. We understand why it's asked.
I'm going to read this into the record, but finish your statement. So
There's just
this is
one-
Christine's letter.
I'm sorry, there was just one comment I wanted to make on the frontage. Would it be possible for, I don't know if it's your, under your
Purview.
purview, that's the word I was looking for, to grant, is it possible to get frontage, an official frontage to the road? We don't have frontage, and we don't have.
If I'm
legal
understanding the attorney correctly, you would get frontage.
She would have, technically speaking, and Christine pointed this out in her letter that I imagine you're going to be reading.
40.10 feet?
Yeah, the very end of the extended public way would provide access to the public way for 55. But Christina does indicate that that would not be legal frontage for the 55 property. So right now, they're landlocked and have no legal frontage. With this plan, they would no longer be landlocked, they would have direct access to a public way, but it would not count as quote-unquote frontage. So it would be actually a better situation, but it's not gonna be.
I think it would be 40, is 40.1 sound correct to you?
So they would have some frontage, just not enough.
Not legal front.
Not legal frontage, correct.
Okay, so they'd
But
go
if
from
it's-
0 to 40 feet.
But I guess what Christina told us is it's at the end of the road, therefore you never have frontage. Only if it's on a side of a road you can have frontage. So we don't have legal frontage.
Okay, I'm going to read Christina's letter, and that may provide some clarity, and we'll continue this. September 5th, 2018, to the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals from the Public Works Engineering Division, 10 to 12 Bulgarian Terrace, 53 Woodbine Street, and Lot 41-140-69 Woodbine Street for the variance request. Dear board members, this office has reviewed the submitted application for the subdivision approval to the planning board. The abutting residents, the Dumanian, am I saying that right?
Bulgarian, I think?
No, Dumanian siblings have asked that this office provide some input for the variance request as follows. The new lots will require a sewer connection. These connections are subject to all required permits and applicable fees. It is recommended that the new driveway have a berm added to divert stormwater runoff down along the roadway toward the storm drains. To consider making a condition of approval that the roadway improvements and drainage infrastructure be completed prior to issuing the building permit. I believe that applies to Lot 6G. The new house should have a roof drain dry well to address additional stormwater runoff. To clarify the confusion regarding frontage for 55 Woodbine Street, Lot 42-140-1, the end of the right-of-way is not considered frontage. Therefore, they have 0.0 frontage. The proposal allows them access to the public right-of-way, but does not provide any frontage. This department has some additional comments on the plans. Revise the dates on the revision blocks as needed. Provide the professional stamps on the plans. Provide grading plan for the proposed house and driveway. Address additional stormwater runoff with mitigation. I have to assume that's it, though she usually signs off.
No signature? That's from Christina? Is that who it's from?
She has her initials on a couple of places.
It's a memo.
Okay, it's a memorandum. She has signed it, Christine, I don't even know her last name.
Papadopoulos?
Papadopoulos, that is correct.
Can I see the memorandum?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Halloran, do you think we could look at how to get them some legal frontage? Is it a possibility?
Mr. Chairman, if you read the definition of frontage in the bylaw, the contiguous portion of a lot line coinciding with the sideline of a street. So this, if it's at the end, it's not a sideline. I do question how it gets counted when there is a cul-de-sac and
That would be
whether that's a sideline or not, but it's really irrelevant in this circumstance because it's not a cul-de-sac. It is
This,
a straight line at the end, it's not on the side. So it would not count, although I'm not sure why it's relevant. Whether they have 0 feet of frontage or 40 feet of frontage, it's still deficient and it's still pre-existing non-conforming, so it doesn't change the status of their property one way or the other.
I think you'd be perfectly safe in selling your home as it is set up now. I think you could sell your home. As it would be set up, I think you could sell your home. I'm not quite sure how we could solve that, and certainly we could never get to that 150, which is a required frontage to be an acceptable lot. I mean, it is an accepted lot, a conforming lot, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I never engaged that issue with Christina. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand Paul's point that
Christina did
cul-de-sac,
address
there's
this
no,
with her.
it's a circle, so there is no end. I guess that's the quick math of that. I don't know the answer, though. I don't know what's right.
Side either.
I think it'd be protected as far as having a legal lot. It's non-conforming now, it would be non-conforming after this process goes through. But it would be much better to be able to not concern yourself with crossing another property to enter your property. Oh, please, please.
We are granted a right-of-way through the driveway. Is that,
You won't need a right-of-way anymore.
well, we gave it to them
No,
because the
we-
existing driveway does encroach over. So just to give them extra assurance, we've agreed to grant them an easement over that portion.
And that's a side, that entrance is the side of the road. Would that area be, what would happen if we gave them that land? From the edge of the driveway to the end of the roadway?
Still the end of the roadway, though. Yeah, it's still
There's
not gonna, they'll
drainage
still
in-
have the same amount of
Yeah,
frontage.
there's drainage involved and you're playing with a plan that's been approved by the planning board. The right-of-way, creating the rest of the street and all that, so they would end up
To
back.
physically give them frontage would be.
Unless you're giving them
Possible.
150 feet of frontage, I'm not
doesn't
sure how it
matter
changes
that-
anything.
Right, I agree with you, I'm just trying to reassure this.
Mr.
young
Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
lady. Protected.
I think the difference you're looking at with the cul-de-sac and the end of a road would be the overall dimension of that bulb of a cul-de-sac versus a end of a road at 40.10 feet. So the overall dimension of the circle of a cul-de-sac is much larger.
Right, even on a paperway, that's a common, I don't know how they do that on a paper road when they do that either, then I don't quite know how that works.
I know that she has spoken with Christina about this before, and Christina has told us that there's just no way to give them legal frontage.
well, no, that's what she said. She just was informing us that you don't have frontage. Because in the very beginning, when we went to the planning board, that was what we were told, we were getting frontage, but we weren't getting frontage. So she just correcting what was told to us.
She told me that there was no way to give you frontage, so, but that's not in writing someplace, so.
Okay, it's fine.
I think it will be fine. I don't think anything that affects your property values or your, I don't know if you ever intend to sell, it's not, the future's the future. But I don't think you're giving up anything that you have now. I think it's gonna be a great improvement for you as far as having a lot that's defined and, I guess it doesn't have frontage, but it's still gonna be a legal lot,
It's a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
which it is now, whether nothing happened, and it would maintain that status, though it would have a different topography.
So the lot in the corner is non-conforming, and it's going to still be non-conforming. These blue and green that we're creating two non-conforming lots out of that.
You're creating 2 lots that are being allowed to be built upon through the variance. Technically not
The
non-conforming
lots
lots.
are created,
Okay, the lots requiring a variance to be
Correct.
buildable.
buildable.
Okay. And the,
If the variance is granted, they would be legal lots.
and the big
The
yellow.
hardship is obvious. I mean, this is just a mess.
The big yellow, the big yellow lot would also need well, they all need variances for frontage. We have five variances coming down the,
Yeah, no, you're right, that's
big
all.
one.
It's the same problem exists with you adding a house lot, but the need to do this is, you know, the financial burden to do this, to me, justifies the additional lot, which I don't think is gonna be a hardship to the area personally. I just don't see it being problematic. This came from the planning board. I have no letters. I will open this up to the audience. If anyone has any questions or concerns regarding this application, feel free. Seeing none.
I have a question for the applicant.
Oh, absolutely, Joe.
Now, all the land in Lowell, what's gonna happen to that?
We get a separate tax bill for that land, it just remains as is. There was some consideration of perhaps working with Lowell and doing some larger subdivision, but we just abandoned that.
You abandon that?
Yeah. So it's just a
Is
piece of
that
land that.
wet back there as well?
It is, yeah, there's actually wetlands on this side.
Okay, and on the sewer, is that all gonna be gravity, or is that gonna be pumps, or what is that gonna be?
I would have to ask my engineer, let's see. Are they pumps?
That's what Christina
Right,
told
the
us,
pump.
that we're all responsible for getting our own.
Oh, no, ma'am, that's not the case.
No,
You-
that is the case.
What do you mean, the
You
town
buy
is-
your own pump, and the town takes care of it.
I buy my pump.
Grinder pump study.
Is that new?
Isn't it, didn't it come out of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's new. Pumps are-
Apologies, you would have to get a pump.
Right.
I thought the town provided them. So they'll maintain it once you own it.
Like they did,
is-
right.
is, I guess, the way it works. It's gonna be a lot less expensive than replacing your septic system, when and if that fails.
The pumps are called an E1 pump. It's only
The grinder pump, yeah. My confusion was, I thought the town was providing them. That has changed, Charlie informed me. I think at one point they were. I know they're maintaining them, but they're not providing them.
Christina told us it's called an E1 pump, or there is another type of pump we could buy. But she was talking to us about the E1 pump.
I'm on a grinder pump, and I use the E1, and it's been flawless. I mean, I know they've had some problems with them. I think I was talking to Charlie tonight about a young child flushed down a washcloth, and they had to dig it up and fix it. But overall, they work pretty well.
I guess another question about the water. Now, the water is gonna have to be looped around, or what?
Is there a hydrant there?
They
Second
usually-
page could show you the
On the second page?
water, I believe.
Oh, okay.
There you go, children.
Want me to blow it up?
'55 and '53 already have public water, so it's only gonna be these two properties that we own that would provide the water.
Looks like it says W9, Charlie. Does that mean something to you?
No. Okay.
Hydrant right by 53.
It is a hydrant, Charlie, so I think they have to loop at a hydrant.
They are going down here.
I think the water would be expensive. The sewer system wouldn't be so bad.
Right. That's significant, but.
Yeah.
What is the address of your property? 55.
It's the very bottom.
Okay, so
It's right here.
Blue here.
So with the road coming now to the end of, or the beginning of that lot. Nothing is changing with that lot, so it needs no
Correct.
variance or anything. It is what it is. Just now we're putting a road next to it.
Correct.
Okay.
The road doesn't go all the way down to here. This is the end of the road right now. And the drainage was gonna go a little bit past here. And this would not be paved, because this is very close to the home.
Oh, I see the paved limits. I see what you're saying, yeah.
It's only going 5 feet past this driveway.
So your roadway won't be right up against your home.
I
It'll be.
hope not.
Right, no, it will be, it says paved limits, there's a line, if you expand it a little, there's paved limit. So your driveway will come onto the paved road, but it won't go as far as your house.
No, I hope not. It's only supposed to go 5 foot past the driveway.
Yep, that's exactly what it shows here.
Where's the?
What are you
That's
looking for?
yours. Where's mine all blurry?
Oh, yes.
I did that. It doesn't.
Oh, you think it's blurry, mine doesn't, mine's really clear.
There's a 5 foot paved limit.
Yes.
Maybe it's not really clear. Or is it
It's
just
your
for looks?
eyes.
Okay.
So this is the paved limit here, which is 5 feet back. This is their driveway.
So they don't even touch the end of the road.
That's why there's an easement.
Well, the roadway goes to this corner, where it technically touches, but the paved limits, they don't want it to go all the way forward, so that they're not kind of in their front yard with the road. It's sort of like a buffer zone, if you would.
Okay, so we technically need 4 variances, then, right?
Lot 6G, number 53, number 10 and 12, and number 14.
You can totally.
And the unaffected lot for variance is 55. But if everybody's getting one, I think we should give them.
Can I ask one more question? Just to clarify that lot 6G, this is what Christina had recommended to wait on.
Yes, and we're gonna incorporate,
Okay, I
should this be approved, and I personally am in favor of it, we would include Christina's letter as well as the caveat that that lot does not begin construction until the roadway is complete, even
Thank you.
bound, I think we could do
Roadway
bound.
and drainage system. I believe was the
Drainage
more
and
importantly.
bound would be a reasonable request. The final coat being, you've got all this equipment coming in and everything, and I wanna wait to put the finished coat.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. We've also, with the engineering department, recently tightened up our permitting procedures, that no building permit will be issued until engineering signs off on it.
So they're on the list now as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good to know. Are there further questions? And I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I will second that.
Second, all in favor?
Sure.
Aye. You take this up in the form of a motion? It might be a little long-winded. I think we'll let
Be
Steve make
gentle.
this motion.
I think Charlie's the motion maker of the night.
In the mood?
You gonna
I
try
would
it?
them to have to happen.
You can tackle it,
I'm
Charlie.
not really happy with
Some
this.
football.
You're not happy with it?
I'm not happy with this whole subdivision.
I'm not happy with it, but I think it's the only way to rectify what's already been done.
Which portions are you particularly,
The house lot for one.
the what? The
The
B?
house
The
lot
new
for
house
one.
lot.
And I think we should do a better road layout, like a cul-de-sac at the end.
Where'd the
But that-
cul-de-sac
it's
go?
not gonna
On their
fit.
property?
Yeah, I guess. You have to take the land.
I don't like that.
That would give you frontage.
Yeah, but where are you gonna get 150 feet of frontage on that?
But is it
Well,
worth it to get
we're
frontage
not gonna get the right
versus
frontage,
that in your
obviously.
yard?
Yeah, so I think the discussion has been whether it's 0 feet, 2
Right,
feet,
right.
or 149 feet, if it's not 150, they still need the
They're still not
same
conforming.
variance. It's not a,
Yeah.
So they do get a variance.
No, they do not need a variance. Their house is pre-existing non-conforming. It has no frontage now. It will have no frontage when this is over.
Okay.
So it doesn't change. The status remains exactly the same. I think Steve's point is getting them a cul-de-sac, which I don't think they would be in favor of on their own property, but getting them a cul-de-sac that gives them less than 100 feet of frontage doesn't change their status.
Doesn't change anything. I honestly think that the idea of doing this is gonna be expensive, and I think the idea of financing it with lot 6G is a reasonable option. Given these mistakes were made 50, 75 years ago, it's not, I think we just should fix it as best we can, that's what I think.
do you have, besides the cul-de-sac, do you have other?
Well, you know, I was always told by this brilliant person, I shall remain nameless, he shall remain nameless, and he says, if you're doing it for the good of the town, then you should probably do it. And I know I have concerns, but in the same breath, I will make 2 motions to approve. One motion is to create the 2 non-conforming lots from the existing lot. And the second motion is to subdivide the existing non-conforming 2 houses into 2 lots. I will make the complete motion to clear up everything at this plan. That's my motion, with all the letters read in, with all the
Conditions of the new building.
Yeah, even with the new building, correct.
I don't see the injured party here. So I agree with you 100%
There's no
that
injured
if you
party.
can improve
You can improve it.
if you're helping the town and doing the right thing as you believe
Correct.
it, you know, people are put out by that sometimes. I don't see an injured party here at all. I don't see someone going, that was great, except for what I got was not right. I don't see that, but that's, I don't disagree with trying to do the right thing for the town as a whole. I just don't see the injured party here, who's losing because of this. I think the Domanians, they improve. I understand the applicant's logic and reasoning. I think he wants to do it while he's able to. I think that it brings legality to the whole area that's not. It brings sewer, it brings water, it brings a roadway to someone that doesn't have one now. So, that being said,
Very good commentary.
I'd look for a second on that
I
motion.
will second it.
Anyone
Actual
can.
motion?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a long window. Did you get all of that, Colleen?
Not really, but I can hopefully
Review
recreate
the
it.
tape.
Yep.
So there was a motion
Yep.
and a
And I
second.
second.
Finance.
Are we all in favor?
All in favor of the unknown motion?
It's not,
There was 2 motions
Never say that out
made.
loud.
It is unanimous and granted. Thank you for all your work on this, sir. It's quite a challenge.
Congratulations,
I
Craig.
think we did the best we could by the town and the abutters and the property owners. I think it's a difficult situation that's gone on for maybe 100 years. So it should give you peace of mind and a more secure piece of property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is why I keep
Good luck with it.
Kinda late, Steve.
I think we're
I'd like to make a motion to close the.
No, we have to do,
Minutes. I
to
didn't.
do minutes.
I
Oh,
didn't have a
please, did you
chance to
guys
read them.
review
I
them?
read
That
the
would be
minutes.
great.
I do have one comment.
Sure.
Who made
Yes, they are
Radcliffe's
included
motion?
in, what Christine,
What?
Dean
and as the
Radcliffe.
building inspector said, they
I
have
didn't
a
have that in
process
there?
now where the engineering will approve
Didn't
this
say who made the
before
motion.
building permits are issued.
Weird, okay.
But 6G will not
We'll
be
fix
issued
that.
until the roadway is in, the sewer is in. Oh, we want to do the right thing. There's
Part of
no.
his motion was to observe the letters, Kurt.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if
Absolutely.
she understood that.
Yeah, you're all set, man.
There was a minor delay between.
That story, but the building shows up tomorrow.
You forgot.
So we, I don't know. I didn't make her cry.
Not.
I believe she did not cry.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so Charlie said there was one thing in the minutes that he wanted me to fix. Is that the only thing you saw?
Yes.
I didn't have a chance to look at them.
I didn't have a chance to.
Okay, I sent him out late, sorry. We will table it till the next meeting.
Okay.
Can we do it by email? No.
Now you get it, well, you can review
All
them
right, so
and
any
then send
question
me
you have, put an email
corrections
to him.
and just approve them at the
Okay.
meeting.
I'll
Want
make
to
a
do that?
motion
Just
to
send me the
adjourn.
corrections via email and we'll just approve them at the next meeting?
Okay.
Okay.
I have a motion to
Motion to
adjourn. All in
adjourn.
favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
No second on that motion to adjourn, only discussion.
That was an awesome meeting.